Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar. My name is Yaraset Anaya Lugo, and John Aragon will also be joining the webinar later today. And welcome to our RFR, Request for Reimbursement, GMU Processing webinar. We will be discussing the following items. We will be talking about the Child Welfare Unit. That's the first thing. We want to make sure that you understand that we are now just a child welfare unit, and there is a victim services unit for all the victim grants that GMU manages. Child welfare unit grants, we will review the 14 grants that we oversee. We will talk about the processing of our request for reimbursements, the backup documentation necessary for processing accurately, and the forms that we use, and the workbook will also be reviewed. Everybody has a workbook where they submit the reimbursements. Welcome to our child welfare unit. As I mentioned, GMU has now made 2 different units to better assist and service our sub-grantees. This is the child welfare unit. Kelsey McCannabarro, Social Service Chief 3, oversees the unit. I oversee the grants and the staff. John Aragon is our management analyst too. He makes the payments. Michael Guerra is a grants project analyst as well, and you all know Michael. Michael's in contact with everybody, and we have a position that is pending for another grants project analyst. Our emails are here. Our phone numbers are here. We are a very small unit, so please don't hesitate to give us a call or email us. It's not like you're going to get lost in all staff. We pride in returning our calls and emails as soon as we can. So please, any question, reach out to us. This is our grants. The Child Welfare Unit manages 14 grants, all related to child welfare. We have grants for adoption services. We have grants for anything you can think of. We want to be able to guide you with the services that you provide and make sure that you're under the right grant. Or if you are your agency is offering services that fall within another grant, we want you to know that there's an opportunity for you to apply for other grants when those grants open up for funding. So this is the importance of being under one unit where we all service child welfare. And we will be letting everybody know when there's an opportunity for funding, and we'll have an explanation before, like a webinar, so to show you what each funding does. And everyone that is already receiving a grant or funding under any of these programs will also be attending a webinar regarding their program. So our focus is to provide you a program service definition 101 so that you understand exactly what the meaning of that program, any changes that have occurred, so that we keep you up to date with any changes. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the state fiscal 21 RFR processing. I want you to understand, and everybody understand, that there are steps that we have to take in order to make sure that your payment is issued on time. We have a 30-day deadline. So by the day that you submit your RFR, we have 30 days until you get payment. So it's very important that we all make sure that all of the requests for reimbursements are submitted by the 15th of every month in order for us to make sure that you get paid on time. How this works is you submit the RFRs to us via our email. We record that in a tracking log. So we say, agency A submitted this RFR on this date for this program, requesting so much funding. And then we have a checklist where it says, okay, was everything completed timely? Are we missing any information? So that's what it's going to tell us if your RFR was submitted complete. If your RFR is not submitted complete, Now we're on step 2. If your RFR is not submitted complete, then we will not process. We will close it because our clock stops. If the agencies do not provide us all the documentation necessary for us to process a payment, the clock does not continue. We stop. We email you. We email the agency and say, hey, we are missing the following items. Please submit complete RFR. When you then resubmit, then we will open it again with the new date so that the clock will then begin. This way, we are keeping track of who submits timely, which one gets worked at what time, what date, so that we can have better data on when our subgrantees receive payment. So if you're missing any documentation that's going to prevent our staff to pay, then we will close and we will let you know what's missing. You can always resubmit. Okay, number 3. GMU will review the RFR along with all the documentation, follow-up documentation, to make sure that the charges fall within the grant, costs are necessary and reasonable, that if you're requesting for payment for any category, that was pre-approved. So they're going to do their work. They're going to look into it, make sure that it's done. They are going to either approve your RFR or they're going to approve what they can validate. They will have to sign that approval and it gets submitted for a supervisor for final approval. The supervisor will then review it and approve or not. But if it gets approved, then it gets sent to Fiscal for further processing. Fiscal has to do their part. Fiscal has to make sure that the money's there and it gets deallocated correctly, and it gets deducted correctly, and they do their share of this process. Reimbursements are paid through the controller's office. So the fiscal department then sends it to the controller's office for payment. As you can see, there's a lot of steps within processing our RFRs that take time. So in order for us to guarantee the 30-day is met, we really need things to be submitted complete and by the due date, which is the 15th of the following month of the RFR. Okay. Backup documentation. It is very important that you all make sure and understand what your risk designation is. Every agency this year, this is a new practice. All agencies were designated a risk level. So please make sure that you know what your designation is. If you do not know, please reach out to us and we will let you know. Everybody should have been informed at the beginning of the fiscal year which was July 1st. So please make sure you read our policy, our GERS. We will be addressing the GERS every time we have a webinar. Every time we do something, we're going to go back to the GERS because we want to make sure that you understand that the GERS is our policy in terms of payments or monitorings. There's a lot of information that you can get from the GERS. Everybody received the GERS when they received their NOSAs. Approved NOSA. So please make sure that you review the GERS, especially section 21.9, which is a new portion of the GERS. This is new this year, and we will be implementing it this year. So this is going to explain to you, 100% is required for high risk designations. So if you were deemed high risk, everything continues the same. You provide 100% documentation for the following items listed here. And then I'm going to send you to the GERS again so that you can identify what your medium risk designation requires. You will see it here. I don't want to read this slide because we want you to understand that the GERS is important. You need to read them. And you can read the slides as well. And we will have also the low risk designation. So please take a moment, read your GERS. If something is not provided, something's not clear, if something is confusing in the GERS, reach out to us. We have also implemented PMPs, policies and procedures clarification, and policies and procedure memos. So if somebody is having a confusion or need clarification, we can always issue a clarification memo so that everybody understands the interpretation of our GERS. Okay? This is the form. You all have one. You all have seen one. You've all completed one by now. The instructions, our workbook has an instruction tab. I recommend you read it and go over the tab and any questions with your GPA, okay? Same thing with the workbook. We will discuss this later today. This tab, this section of the workbook, it's logged. We will be able to make changes per your request on any changes of staff. That's done by us. And this section is unlocked, but you will know more later on this webinar. Okay. This is where I end my portion. And now John Aragon will be discussing the reimbursement process and what's allowed and what's not allowed. Okay, I appreciate your time. Now we're going to move on to the webinar. So please check the video for request for reimbursement webinar. So thank you again and stick around for the webinar and